and salutations, welcome back to Colin's Last Stand right here on YouTube. My name is Colin Moriarty. As always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here with me and spending just a few of your moments, your daily moments on Colin's Last Stand. Today, I want to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while, actually, and I feel like it's coming to a head now. This topic, this notion is coming to a head now, and I feel like it deserves a little bit of time on CLS. And that particular topic is kind of what's going on with Donald Trump and what's going on with the Russia investigation and what's going on with fake news and all this kind of stuff. And basically agenda-driven journalism that I think has driven this Trump / Russia / collusion / whatever truck just completely off the cliff and has actually damaged almost everyone involved in the witch hunt, which I think it's kind of turning into, except for maybe Donald Trump, who does a great job of damaging himself by himself without the help of any outside influences, which makes this ordeal all the more strange in my mind, because Donald Trump is one of the greatest self-saboteurs of all time. He doesn't need anyone else's help, so why is everyone else helping him? And dare I say, why is everyone working towards this goal that seems like it might end up making him a sympathetic figure? Which is interesting. So follow me for a few minutes and see if you agree. The way the media talks about Russia and Donald Trump. Russia, Trump. Russia, Trump. Russia, Trump. Russia, Trump. It's like they're peanut butter and jelly. And I love peanut butter and jelly. I'm not a huge fan of Trump or Russia, but I am a really big fan of peanut butter and a really big fan of jelly. But there are lots of different issues related to Trump and Russia and all of this that we've kind of conflated and confused and contrasted and thrown them all into this ball and have gone so far down this rabbit hole that we've actually come out the other side with no more than we went down in to begin with. We went searching for facts and for answers, and we are somewhat empty-handed. And I ask myself, isn't it obvious that this is now completely agenda-driven? And isn't it obvious now that people are just looking to nail Donald Trump for anything at all, just to kind of get him? Because I think that's somewhat obvious. Now, as usual, I feel like I have to kind of be clear with you guys and gals out there. I'm not defending Donald Trump. I'm not defending his behavior. As I've made very clear, in case you're somehow new to all of this, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Gary Johnson, which was, you know, it's like looking at a plate of 4 pieces of shit. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Jill Stein, and Gary Johnson, and being, well, this shit looks a little more palatable than all the other shit. So I'm not defending that vote necessarily, but that's what I did. I was a Republican. I actually left the Republican Party over Donald Trump and his primary win because I was kind of disgusted, not necessarily by some of his ideas. I think some of his ideas are good, some of them are bad, but more by the man, the nature of the man. And I think he's a fantastic entertainer. I was actually a big fan of his as an entertainer and as kind of a billionaire playboy or whatever, but I'm not a fan of his lack of decorum, his lack of etiquette, his lack of normalcy. There's certain human norms that I think we have to kind of live by and work by, especially when we're in government, and he doesn't meet the criteria. So I was actually quite aghast that he won the primary, and I was shocked, along with almost everyone else, that he won the election. I predicted that actually he would lose pretty handily. So I just wanted to throw that all out there. But the fact remains that the biggest story in media since the election, and really since before the election, was how is Russia involved in all of this? How is Russia involved in the election? And how could Trump or his associates, and I should say and or his associates, how were they involved with Russia, and how are they involved with Russia's involvement in the election and all of that, if that makes any sense to you? It is the biggest story in many, many years, and everyone's in on the game. And shouldn't that tell you something? It tells me 2 things. One, it's a big story. It's a Watergate-style government intrigue story. It should absolutely be looked into. But it also tells me that with all of the man-hours and manpower put into it, with all of the digging and all of the leaking and all of this, there's still nothing there. There's really just not much there. It's really akin to like a Tom Clancy novel or some great spy novel. It's full of mystery and intrigue and all these kinds of things, and it's riddled with landmines. Is Donald Trump a Manchurian candidate? Did Donald Trump directly collude with Russia or Russian agents? Did his people collude with them? Was there connections? What did Trump know? What did Pence know? Who knew what? It's so convoluted and complicated, and I'm dead serious when I say that it is so complicated that I don't think really anyone understands the entire thing anymore, because that's usually what happens when something turns into a conspiracy theory. No one denies, at least, I don't want to say no one, I don't deny that Russia was involved in fucking around with the election. I don't think this is the first time they've done it. I think that they tried to swing the election to Trump. I think that Putin was directly involved in it and Putin's associates in Moscow. And I think that the intelligence agencies in the United States are all pretty unanimous in that conclusion as well. And I trust them. I trust the CIA. I trust the FBI. Maybe I'm a fool for doing that, but I do. I trust that certain institutions in the United States are worthy of trust, and they're telling us the truth. Russia tried to do this, tried to swing it. There's a lot of really interesting information out there about it. I won't recount all of it here, although there's about an 8,000 or a little more than 8,000 word article that the Washington Post just posted some days ago. And since we're talking about fake news, we should also applaud the good and real journalism going on out there as well. This is a great piece of journalism that you should all check out. It's the entire real story about it from the government's perspective, from the president's perspective, and the Senate's perspective, and the House's perspective, the judiciary and the intelligence agencies, and really how it all went down, how they discovered things. So really give it a go and give it a look, because it's a really great read, and I found it quite informative. But there's a difference between that and if Trump himself was involved in it, or Trump's associates were involved in it. And here's where things get really hazy, because my personal opinion is the opinion of some pretty smart people out there as well, which is, with all of the leaking, and again, all of this time put in, nothing has leaked yet. No smoking gun is out there yet. There's nothing to say about this in terms, not necessarily of some of his associates' involvement or possible involvement, but Trump himself, because that, of course, is what everyone is after, is Donald Trump himself. And I'm no fan of the man being in the White House. I hope that he's removed in 2020 through the proper electoral process, and then we get someone a little more sane and a little more reasonable in there. But nonetheless, the people did speak, the election did go through the process, the proper processes, and it seems to me like this is almost a relitigation of the election to try to muddy the waters to such a degree that we can never take anything he says seriously, we can never trust anything he says, and that his entire administration is just going to be embroiled in this process and in this drama until he's ultimately removed. And I look at that as a shame, not because it's Donald Trump's downfall or whatever, or that he necessarily deserves the benefit of the doubt. He's such a liar and such an instigator that he kind of reaps what he sows in that regard. But it's a waste of 4 years for us. It's a waste of time for us. We should be rooting for the man to at least get some things done on our behalf and not hope that he fails. And that's also the major pitfall of politics, the major pitfall of partisan hack politics, which is that when a man that you don't like or a woman that you don't like is in office somewhere, you root against them to get them removed. I just don't understand that. When I voted for Romney in 2012 and he lost, well, I was disappointed about that, but I also hoped that Obama would do great things for the country. We don't know. For all we know, the Senate Intelligence Committee and all of these committees and the intelligence apparatus in the United States, and Robert Mueller, who's obviously the old FBI director who's kind of looking into all of this as a special investigator. Perhaps he comes back tomorrow with all this information that implicates Donald Trump, in which case the witch hunt was founded, in which case this... But I don't think I'm alone in feeling like there's something up with this. There's something amiss with the way that Trump is being treated in this particular regard by not only some people in government, but by the media and maybe the public at large. And I'm just a little disturbed by it, because we have big problems in the United States. And we have to not conflate various issues. For instance, the inclusion of Paul Manafort or Carter Page or Michael Flynn and all these guys who clearly, I think, have something to hide, as opposed to the people that may be associated with them but don't have something necessarily to hide. I just don't know that Donald Trump is even smart enough politically to want to collude with anyone, but I also understand that he made things really difficult for himself by almost rooting Russia on during the election, by encouraging them to hack more of Hillary's emails, by kind of buddying up with Vladimir Putin in a kind of a strange way that I find quite unpalatable and quite strange. But I'm kind of just speaking from the heart here, because I just don't understand where this goes. The media, the mainstream media, especially in America, has lost a lot of its capital with the American public, with how I think they treated the 2016 election and how they really thought that they were the true power brokers, and they're not. And I feel like they're spending whatever capital they have left to get to the bottom of this and have predetermined conclusions based on the loss that I think they took collectively in 2016. So my question is, how is it that they have nothing to show for it? Nothing to show. Everyone, great journalistic minds and activist minds and publications putting millions of dollars behind this, are finding nothing. And it's a simple conclusion that I have to kind of draw, which, is there anything here to find? And I don't know the answer for sure. I just know what it appears to be from the outside. And it appears to be very McCarthyist in a way. And it's not only me saying this stuff now, you know, it's Joshua Holland at The Nation. He wrote about it. Former CIA Director Michael Morell noted that there's probably nothing there in terms of Trump. Journalistic hero Glenn Greenwald, who I really love, wrote back in March that the Democrats were already preparing for there to be nothing there. James Clapper, who was the National Intelligence Director under Obama, left in January 2017 and said at the time he left, after everyone putting all their eggs in that basket, that there was no evidence of any sort of collusion. David Brooks, very popular liberal New York Times writer, said that it's looking more and more unlikely that there's anything actually here with Trump and Russia and the collusion. Bob Woodward, who is one of the great OG journalists in American journalistic history, recently reminded the press that they need to be more fair and not biased with this particular thing. And look at just recent examples with CNN and with Vice. I mean, Van Jones, who was a beloved operative of the Obama administration and the Obama election in 2008, recently was recorded secretly saying that there's nothing to this story. Vice had to retract the story. CNN was retracting stories. It seems like the hunt is on. And all I want is a level of fairness, a modicum of objectivity in the argument. To say that, yeah, maybe Trump's guilty of something. Maybe Trump is the Manchurian candidate. Maybe Trump and Putin did exchange money or they got involved in a more direct way. But it doesn't look like that. And I don't see the media narrative really shifting away because they've doubled down. And I've said in the past that the Democrats and the media, the mainstream media, are playing a very dangerous game of brinksmanship with the truth here. It's a high risk, high reward situation for them. And if they lose, my biggest fear is that they're just handing Donald Trump, who's a man that I don't really want to see in the White House for another 4 years after 2020, they're handing him the keys for a second term because Americans do have a level of fair-mindedness that they want to see. And if it turns out that Trump, there's nothing here, and a year from now, there's still nothing here, and 2 years from now, there's still nothing here, I got to tell you, you know, that's going to look really good for Trump, and it's going to jeopardize the media's already kind of shaky standing with the American public that much more. And I don't think that that's a healthy thing either. We need a press that we can trust, but the press has to understand that they're doubling down on something that might not be there, and they're responsible for sowing those seeds of doubt amongst the American public, not us. Fake news is a thing that happened because, or this word, I guess I should say, that kind of has joined the vocabulary, the vernacular of America and of the world, largely because not only does Donald Trump call out things that sometimes are true and sometimes are false, as he often does, because he does have a problem with, you know, the truth himself, but it really goes down further than that. It's the idea that, well, there is fake news, and there's almost this NATO-like alliance between journalistic outlets and journalists themselves where, you know, an attack against one is an attack against all, but I don't know that that's such a healthy way to be. If I were a journalist in politics and I were there and I was doing my hardest to hit the pavement, to find the facts, to deliver information that my audience can rely on, and I had a bunch of hacks chasing sensationalist ideas and things that can't be rooted in truth yet and are ruining everything for everyone and poisoning the well for everyone, I'd fucking call them out. And the unfortunate thing is that there's great journalists out there, great writers, honest minds, that are being obscured by this whole smokescreen that a few people are responsible for. So why go down with that ship all at once? It just doesn't make sense. And it's just strange to see how blatantly agenda-driven everything is. And I just don't like it because I want, you know, you're allowed to have opinions and strong principles and all those kinds of things. I certainly do, and I know a lot of you guys out there do as well. But just watching the pivot to feed the narrative that happens on certain things. Look at Russia. Remember when Mitt Romney was laughed off the stage? Remember when Obama embarrassed him on stage and the media laughed at him and all that? Well, now the media and the Democrats are the ones that seem to be beating the drums of war, frankly, with Russia and trying to get us involved in all of these issues with them. And maybe they deserve it and maybe they don't. I don't know. Because guess what? We still don't have all of the facts and all of the evidence we need. So why are we in such a rush to draw conclusions that we are not prepared to draw conclusions of? And what makes matters even worse, my friends, is that Donald Trump is so profoundly unfit for that office and so profoundly unpopular with a lot of people based solely on other issues that why would you feed his narrative when you can just focus specifically on the things he says that are false, specifically on broken promises, specifically on his lack of etiquette and decorum and his lack of ability to really hold that office in a lot of different ways. You're just making him stronger. And again, it is the ultimate gambit. It is a massive game of brinksmanship that people are playing with this man. And you know who you're going to have to blame if he wins again. I hate to tell you, you're going to have the same group of people that are to blame the first time around. The media. The media spent 18 months trying to destroy the man. I was surprised that he was able to survive it. I certainly jumped in on it every once in a while myself because I was certainly unimpressed. But nonetheless, they destroyed him. Then they pivoted to his supporters thinking that was going to work. Hillary Clinton lost somehow. Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, and we are now stuck with him, and now they're trying to undo the election results basically through all of this kind of stuff. And again, maybe Trump is not innocent. Maybe Trump, there's something there. Maybe there's something there with Mike Pence and all these kinds of things, but I just don't know. What we do know is that there's probably something there with Michael Flynn. There's probably something there with Paul Manafort. Maybe there's something there even with Jared Kushner or Jeff Sessions. Maybe with Carter Page or Roger Stone or Michael Cohen. But Donald Trump himself? The most damning thing that happened with Donald Trump since the election or around that time was the Steele dossier that came out from an ex-British intelligence officer, totally unsubstantiated, and actually looked at by the intelligence agencies, but not in a strong enough way that they think that there's anything there, because the insinuation, of course, is that the Russians are so deep in bed with Trump and with his associates that they have something big on him and are going to blackmail him. And maybe that's possible. And maybe a lot of people like me are going to look dumb for questioning that or for being skeptical about that. But I think skepticism, guys, even if you don't like the person, even if you don't like the policy, is actually a really good thing. And I'm concerned about what this means for us moving forward beyond the Donald Trump era. Is this always going to be the way it is? Is it always going to be this adversarial, at your throat kind of atmosphere? American politics and politics in general, especially in the modern era, have never been a friendly affair. They've never been, let's shake hands and go out to eat and drink a beer. It's never been like that. I understand that. I study politics, I study history, I know that. But this seems extra vitriolic. This seems extra partisan. This seems extra mean. And I get it. I get that Donald Trump has set this cadence himself. I get that Donald Trump really confuses and confounds a lot of people, including me. But at the end of the day, we should be more worried about truth and objectivity than could-be's and would-be's and subjectivity when it comes to this particular thing. And if, Robert Mueller and his investigative team comes out with some forceful evidence, then the narrative should shift again. But we have to really be mindful of the way we're chasing this story and how it might come off in history and how it might come off as something that's smart in the moment, but not so smart 5 or 10 years from now when we're looking back about how the political landscape might have changed and how the media landscape might have changed and the landscape of American politics generally and the way the voters vote because of the way the media and because of the way of overzealous politicians on both sides are treating this particular situation. We got to stay in the middle. We got to worry about the truth. We got to worry about facts and let things play out as they are. And I'm far more eager to go on Politico or Huffington Post or Drudge Report or any of the things that I read every day and see something else, just anything else other than this over and over again. When there's something to say, let's say it. But let's not chase this down another rabbit hole and poison the well even more, because I don't know that we're going to like the outcome. All right, that's it for Colin's Last Stand today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'd be very interested to hear what you think about it in the comments below, so let me know. Of course, as always, thumb up the video if you like it and thumb it down if you don't. Please feel free to share it with friends and family. I really do appreciate it. Of course, subscribe here on YouTube if you can. Go back through the catalog, the back catalog of other videos as well. There's a lot of stuff there to watch. I think there's 24 episodes so far, if I remember correctly. And so I'd really be interested to see what you think of those as well. And of course, if you can join me over at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand and subscribe to Colin's Last Stand by giving me $1, $5, $10, whatever you're comfortable with every month for not only the show that everyone gets, but some special perks as well, I would really appreciate it. As you might have noticed, this is completely ad-free and completely free of baked-in ads. It's independent, and it's all thanks to the people out there that go to patreon.com/ColinsLastStand on behalf of everyone. So thank you so much for that. All right, it's time for me to go. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time for Colin's Last Stand. Keep on learning.